welcome to a Telltale Books video. I'm Greg, and I'm here to talk about the next in my H.G. Wells series, which is one of his more major short stories, The Stolen Bacillus. On my listing, I've got it at number 22, and it was published originally in the Pall Mall Budget magazine for June 21st, 1894. I assume that means the Pall Mall Budget was a weekly. And in the short story, you have a bacteriologist who is visited by a man who is asking a lot of questions about cholera specifically, and what would happen if cholera were to be released, and whether or not he had samples sitting in his lab, which the bacteriologist did. He said that they were required to have samples of things like that in their lab, safely contained in vials. And at one point, the bacteriologist's wife calls him for something, and so he steps out of the room to deal with that. And the man then is gone when the bacteriologist gets back. But the vial that he picked up, saying it was cholera, is missing. So he chases after the man. And the man turns out to be an anarchist bent on dumping the cholera in the city water supply in order to kill lots of people. The story is very short, doesn't get really deep. I can see where it would be possible to take this story to a further conclusion, and that would be interesting. And there are people who have done that. A wide variety of books and stories that have done exactly that, taken the idea of a released bacteria to an extreme. And of course, the specific kind of thing being talked about here actually has happened in our real world. Most notable recent incidences that I'm aware of are, first of all, there was a doom cult in Japan that released a poison gas on the subways and killed a lot of people. And then there was the Al-Qaeda releasing anthrax on envelopes in the mail here in the United States shortly after 9/11. So these are things that are actually happening in our real world, where people take it upon themselves to try and do this and try to kill many people. To the average person, this story sounds like, why would anybody want to do that? But we know in our real world there are people that, we don't get an answer to that question. There is no answer to that question, but it does happen. There are people who want to do that for God knows what reason. And Wells was being, as usual, it wasn't that Wells was some kind of Nostradamus or anything. He just really understood the modern world and how things worked for modern industrialized society, and how the class dynamics were shaping up, and the kinds of sciences. He was involved in biological science and was a teacher, and worked with one of the Huxleys. And so he was involved with the very forefront of biological science, and he knew what was going on. He knew this sort of thing. And he could just see these possibilities in the world, in the way the world was, in the way people behaved, the kind of politics that were going on, the kinds of sciences and technologies that were being invented. He was putting these things together and seeing these possibilities. and coming up with this story. Now, the story, like I say, I wish it would have investigated further the possibilities of playing this whole thing out, but it didn't. It's too short of a story to do that. So you don't get that. And for that reason, I don't think I want to make this a top tale. I think it could have been stronger. I certainly know that there are stronger stories that Wells wrote, but this is a very famous story. It's been collected a lot. Myself, I have it in a number of places. It's in the Dover 28 Science Fiction Stories by H.G. Wells, a hardcover edition that's no longer available as hardcover. I think you can get it as a trade paperback. The Wells collection, 30 Strange Stories, originally published just after 1900, like 1902 or something like that. This is, of course, a reprint edition from the 1980s, but it is the 30 Strange Stories, and it's in here. The first collection where Wells collected it during his lifetime was titled The Stolen Bacillus and Other Stories, and it was actually his very first short story collection published. And it's in there. I don't have a copy of that book. It's in The Country of the Blind and Other Stories. And this book in particular, Wells stated he rewrote some of the stories that went into this, not the Stolen Bacillus, but some of the other stories that went into this collection. He rewrote them and stated that the stories in this collection were the definitive versions of his short stories. So this is a very good collection to have, and originally was published in, I believe, 1911. This, of course, is a much later paperback reprint. And of course, it's in the complete short stories of H.G. Wells. And as if that's not enough, I also have it in this one, The Collector's Book of Science Fiction by H.G. Wells. And what this is facsimile reproductions of the original magazine appearances of his stories with the illustrations. It's a really cool book. And Stolen Bacillus is in there. The story is in the public domain. The early short story collections like Stolen Bacillus and 30 Strange Stories, those are public domain. So most likely you can find those collections on Project Gutenberg and or the story itself on some website. And of course, plenty of ebooks, I'm sure. No lack of places where you can find and read the Stolen Bacillus. Have you ever read the Stolen Bacillus? This is like my 6th or 7th time reading the story. I've read it many times over the years. If you've read it, leave your comments in the comment section of the video. Otherwise, come on back for more Wells. My next one is going to be number 23 will be The Thumb Mark. And lots more coming after that. And of course, a wide variety of other stuff that we review. So come on back and join me for much more here in Telltale Books. Until then, hit the likes button and hit the subscribe button.